Leadership! It's a word that gets thrown around a lot in hockey. Every team is looking for a leader. But what is that? Your most talented player? The guy who's the fastest, gets the most goals, most assists? Is it the guy who paints his face half blue, half white, he gives that great Braveheart speech before a game? Or fight against the English in Braveheart's case? Or is it like mighty King Leonidas with the 300 Spartans? It is an honor to die at your side. It is an honor to have lived at yours. Whew, just tingles. So what is a leader? 1,000 milliliters. Woo! Are you just gonna get hammered? Get me a toaster. Magic Angel Robot from Winnipeg! What the hell are you talking about? This team is ruining my life! When in doubt, metric humor. Okay, I'm making this video, well, one, because there's been a ton of talk about the problem with Leafs leadership. This team has a problem with leadership and leadershipiness. Phaneuf is not being enough of a leader. Dave Bolland is the leader this team needs. Something something Kessel, something something Clarkson, and all I want to know is what the hell people are talking about. So I fired out this tweet that made Twitter burn to ash. Here's a question. How do you define what leadership is? Is it quantifiable in any way, you misspelling jerk? Can it help you win hockey games? If yes, how? That would have been such an insightful tweet if I had just spell checked. But I looked at all the responses I got and I'm like, okay, so we don't agree on what leadership is. And by disagree, I don't mean I think it's different from the rest of you. I mean all of us, collectively, we don't have the same definition. So as a fan of the Leafs, when people say the Leafs lack something, but we don't agree what that something is, that's a bigger problem. They lack goal scoring. Go out and get a guy who scores goals. They lack speed. Go out and get a fast guy. They lack size. Go get a big guy. Go get leadership. What does that mean? You get a guy who's been around a while? Well, there's plenty of veterans who aren't good leaders. They might know more stuff than the younger guys. That doesn't necessarily make them a good leader. Do you go out and get a guy who's won the Stanley Cup? Maybe even more than once. Well, just because you have a Stanley Cup doesn't mean you're an all-star. Just because a guy's been around a long time, alright, well, has he been great for a long time or has he been adequate for a long time? The guy who won the Stanley Cup, did he play a big role? Adequate role? Minor role? Well, you need the little guys so the big guys can do their job. Anyway, here are some of the tweets. Here's a conversation between Skinny Fish from the Pension Plan Puppets and Norman James from CTV. Leadership only wins games in Disney movies. It's psychological. Yeah, because professional athletes need to be told they have to try to win. I see both their sides. To the Disney movie point, we really do expect certain players, maybe Jonathan Taves, for example. He's considered one of the better leaders in the NHL, at least from what I hear. We expect him to just grab the bull by the horns and go, follow me, boys. We all wait for that big heroic moment where in the final seconds of the third period, the guy goes, get on my back, boys, I'm gonna win this for all of us. And then in the post-game speech, he goes, you know what, I scored the goal, but it was my teammates. It's a whole team effort and I love these guys and I did this for you, Mom. When in reality, when does that ever happen? Or when is it ever a leadership-y type of leadership guy? By that definition of leadership, isn't Jordan Eberle like one of the better leaders in the NHL? Norman says it's psychological. Then Skinny Fish follows that up with, well, these guys are professionals. They don't need to be told to win. I think what Norman was saying there is you need a boost sometimes. It doesn't matter how good you are at something, how long you've been doing it. You can get down on yourself. It can get in your head. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, I'm down on myself. Pat, pat, hey man, you're gonna be fine. Oh, okay, I'm gonna score a hat trick. Sometimes, no matter how good you are at something, no matter how long you've been doing it, it's good to get a little kick in the ass. Travis Yost says, great leaders do win games. They just happen to be great players who are better than their competition. Alright, but then by that definition, we look at some players throughout NHL history who were considered kind of head cases or not the greatest of leaders, but they were way better than their competition. Didn't Dominic Hasek always get the reputation of being, you know, kind of crazy, kind of selfish? But the guy was one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. Tim Thomas was unbelievable when the Bruins won the Cup. Absolutely deserved the Conn Smythe. No way the Bruins win it without him. Meanwhile, it turns out the players didn't even like him. But obviously it takes more than one player to lead a team. If I can be selfish for a sec, one thing I remember, I interviewed, where's the picture? Yeah, right there. Serge Savard and Yvan Cournoyer, whose name I never say properly. I asked them about the dynasty Habs, well, one of the dynasties that the Habs had. But they were talking about, well, our locker rooms had 20 leaders on them, so it didn't matter if I was captain, he was captain, or they said it with a French accent, but you know. Either way, because the room was full of leaders, that's why they were successful. And let's pretend that's true. You need to have a room full of leaders. Well then why is there a captain? Is he the leadershipiest? And if that's true, and you need leadership by group, well, Is Phaneuf not being a great leader allegedly really that big of an issue for the Leafs? Or for the Capitals? Or for any other team? Who the hell was the Red Wings leader this year? Alright, they got Zetterberg, yeah, he's captain. Okay, they got Johan Franz, and he's been around for a long time. Alright, they got Pavel Datsyuk, obviously one of the best two-way players in the game. He's been around a long time. Cups galore. Those guys were injured for like half the season. And yeah, they're still around, but wouldn't it kick ass to have them on the ice with you? Or at least on the bench? Maybe then you look to the coach. Maybe Mike Babcock is a great leader for the Wings. But how does he do that? We've heard him talk about things like body language. He doesn't seem like much of a screamer, although he'll do it when appropriate. He seems to be very honest with his players, but like, what does that mean? Does that mean he's a leader? All those things? Or is it something else? Does he motivate the team? Because Randy Carlyle said it's not his job to motivate the Leafs, which goes back to the idea that they're professionals and they should show up to the rink ready, but they don't always. Now we got Jim Lang of TheLeafsNation.com. What a beauty. It is tough to define. I always viewed leaders as guys who led by example, by playing at a high level every day. As a teammate, if you see your best player being great every day, it forces you to step up your game. Forget the rah-rah stuff. This isn't daycare. These are men playing for money. Guys who bring it every day are leaders. Fair enough, and that touched on some of the stuff we've already talked about. But even though he's streaky, wouldn't a guy like Phil Kessel fit that mold? We talk about how he goes hot and cold and all this, that, and the other. I've looked at the numbers. Unless it's changed dramatically, he's not much more streakier than a lot of the league's best scorers. He has 30-goal season after 30-goal season after 30-goal season. He's set a standard for himself where if he scores 35 goals in a full season, it's a disappointment. And he does it year in, year out. He comes to the rink and he produces. Okay, but he misses a lot of practice and he doesn't have the greatest body language on the bench and this, that, and the other. Okay, maybe he's not a leader, but he's kind of a leader. Is it good enough for one player who scores a ton of goals to be kind of a leader and someone else can step it up in another department? This from Justin Fisher, also of TheLeafsNation.com. Leadership is great, but it isn't quantifiable and it isn't seen in the on-ice product. I think I get what you mean, but I don't think that's possible. If your team has good leadership, it's logical to assume they'll perform better, is it not? It's hard to tell because we as a group can't agree what leadership is. But if it's what people say it is, it's the inspiration, it's the even if you're a good player, you need a kick in the ass sometimes. It's a little bit of something. Whatever that something is, even though we can't really name that something, it's quantifiable in some ways. If that something exists, it's logical to assume a team with better leadership is a better hockey team. Whether it's a guy who inspires, a guy who performs better, harder, faster, produces in clutch moments and all that hokey stuff, well then, yeah, it should be a good thing. Your tweet said leadership is great, but it's not quantifiable. Well, how can it be great if it's not quantifiable? Unless what you're saying then is it's a placebo. But even placebos, if they work, have quantifiable results. I'm not a doctor, but I think that's how it works. More from Justin. And now Rachel, who's in the conversation. Could be seen on ice. Crosby, Taves, leadership shown by how they produce on the ice. Talent shows on the ice, leadership more to do with the off-ice discussions, team meetings, etc. That's my experience. True, but wouldn't stepping up at big moments on ice be a sign of leadership? More likely skill, in my opinion. Clutch is a narrative tool. Fair. You don't think a leader can lead by example on the ice then? Consistency, etc.? On and on and on. Here's where I think this discussion is leading us. Leadership, to me, is a lazy word. And it's not an actual thing. What it is a bunch of things. It's almost like the word color. That's like, see this wall? See the wall behind me, even though it's got stuff on it? Look at the paint behind it. That's like me telling you that the wall is color. The wall's not color, it's blue. When Phil Kessel or Sidney Crosby or Jonathan Taves or any of the stars in the NHL score a goal, you don't say they leadershiped. They scored a goal. If someone gives an amazing pregame speech, they didn't give a leadership, they gave a speech. If someone has a big shift, they didn't have a big leadership, they had a big shift. If a coach draws up a play and the players do it to a T and they nail it and they score a goal and they win the game, does that mean the coach drew a good leader? No, he drew up a good play. okay. It's like asking for a grocery list and they go, what do you want? And you just go, food. Yeah, I get that. What kind of food? There's lots of kinds of food. Just some of the food that we don't have. What kind of food don't we have? What kind of food do we have a lot of? I need to know what kind of food we have a lot of so I can get food we don't have. So next time you're listening to a radio show and they go, oh, such and such team has bad leadership, I want you to pick up the phone, dial their number, call them when they answer, go, huh? What do you mean? If you see someone say it on TV, tweet at them, what do you mean? Well, I've been in an NHL dressing room and I can tell you from my experience. Tell me about your experiences specifically! Because unless there's something I'm missing, I think it's just a lazy word. It is merely icing on a cake, and you can't have cake with delicious icing on it when there is no cake to put the icing on. I think a lot of people are looking at the Leafs right now and going, the icing is the problem. No, it's the damn cake. You screwed up the whole recipe. You put too many eggs or something. You can't just paste over that. But what do you think? Don't just let me yell and scream and have the last word. Take some leadership. Whatever the hell that means.